Carl Smith.
Here.
Daniel Gray. Here. Ava Coleman.
Here.
Jim Moore here. Ron McNeil.
Present.
Dana Tony is not here. Lauren Martin.
Here.
And Laura Walker.
Here.
Everyone knows except Dina. She's on.
All right. If you'll join me in a moment of silence and followed by the pledge. Colonel Daniel, lead us in that, please.
Please join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Got some, first thing we need to do is we've got a addendum that we need to add to the agenda. So I would entertain a motion for this personnel addendum to be added.
So moved.
Second.
All right, a motion and a second. Any discussion, questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. So we'll put that on there with the personnel, with the other item for personnel agenda. All right, so first item we have tonight is public comments. We've got, would you like to introduce our?
Yes,
public
sir.
comments?
Good evening, Board of Directors in our community. Tonight, we have Mr. Valentino Warren from All Pro Dad with public comments and a presentation. Mr. Warren.
Good evening, all. I want to represent the All Pro Dad. I've been doing the program.
Come on up.
I've been doing the All Pro Dad program for over 13 years.
Go ahead.
Good evening, everybody.
All right. Camera right here.
I won't block it.
Stand right in front of the laptop.
All right.
There you go.
Well, good evening to everyone. I don't want to take up your time long. I'm a resident, of course, of Jacksonville. My kids have been through Jacksonville. My daughter currently is a teacher now at Merrill Elementary, and I've been doing the All Pro Dad program for over 13 years now. All Pro Dad basically is dads getting involved with the kids in school, and I'm very passionate about the program. And now that we have our own school district, I believe that can really make a great impact for Jacksonville. And there's no particular, white, black, Asian, Hispanic. It's just dads, even if it's a single mom, she's welcome to come in. All it is a once a month breakfast. The dads come in. It's usually covered with Title I funds. They come in for a breakfast. The agenda is all on videotape. All Pro Dad program is taken care of out of Florida, so all the materials are taken care of. All they have to do is have a willing dad. And so with the program, it doesn't take much. It's just dads getting involved. It's about 30 to 45 minutes once a month. Usually I currently have chapter pages at Bobby G. Lester, Biomeda Elementary, what was currently Warren Dupree, and also middle school, Jacksonville Middle School as well. I would like to get it in all the schools here in Jacksonville. All I ask is if you have a dad that's willing and able, that's all it takes. I'm now the regional team captain. I used to be a team captain myself and go to all of the meetings. But as you know, as teachers and principals and, educating leaders, you can get stretched thin when you have a lot of hats going on. So I'm just looking forward to getting the program started again this year. We tried to do it last year virtually, but it's a lot of dads that are kind of inept when it comes to Zoom and the virtual teaching, so that didn't work out too well. But now that we're able to get back into the schools, I want to get some dads involved. Every school has a dad that you know of that's very involved, that's always attentive, that's always there. The problem I've had in the past, and like I said, I've been doing it over 13 years. The problem I've had in the past is that when you present it to a dad, they kind of get shy about it. They're like, oh, I don't know what to do. It's a bag in a box. When they get it, they get a bag, literally. Like I said, I do have pages set up, but if you have someone that's kind of computer inept in your school, They can set up the web page. It's $50 a year that covers all the programming, all the material. So all you gotta do is, like I said, Title I funds covers that. And so all they have to do is be available once a month. They set up a meeting, or if you have somebody at the school, they can set up the meeting. They do the program, and all they gotta do is show it on the chapter page, and that's it. And the dads are basically just having breakfast with their kids while they're learning something about being a dad. Usually the topics are like being courageous or being dependable, being responsible. And we have a moment that we do every month that is called Why I'm Proud of My Kid moment. And so the dads stand up and they say to the kids why they're proud of them this month, and the kids love it. I mean, they just gleaming, they're smiling, and it shows that they had a definite improvement in their grades, they had a definite improvement in their attitude. The dads are more attentive, the dads are more in school, because usually moms are always the one there, they're always at the meetings, they're always at the, whatever. So dads, whether they're military, whether they're police officers, this is the time that dads show up. And then when they come to the meeting, I always say, hey, make it a point to know the kids' teachers, make it a point to be involved, and it makes a big difference. And so that's my spiel. I gave them some handouts, some literature, and if you can get a dad involved, I'll be there. I would love to be a part of it. I would love to be there to back them up so nobody drops the ball. I want to see this program just extend even more further past Jacksonville. So that's it in a nutshell. If you have any questions.
Mr. Warren, thank you for what you're doing. Which school are you at? Or which school do you?
The school I have, the first school I started, Bayamia Elementary, and Mr. Beck can attest to that. And we had, it's a slow burn at first. It was like 1 or 2 dads. Then we end up having 40, 50 dads show up. And this is like early in the morning, before school starts. And then I have Bobby G. Lester. I also have Warren Dupree, which Warren Dupree was kind of a slow burn as well. It's more geared toward elementary level.
Sure.
Because high school, the kids are a little more detached. Middle school, they kind of getting that way. But if you get them on the elementary school level, I mean, it will progress as they go throughout the school year. And then, like I said, I can test for my kids, that was all through school. We come, my wife and I have been part of concession stand with the high school and everything. We come and have lunch with our kids. When they went on to college, I'll show up and have lunch with them. And it's not like, oh, here's my dad here. It's like, oh, hey, my dad is here, and we join in. And it makes such a big impact on families. You wouldn't think a once a month breakfast could have that much of an impact, but it does. And for those dads that are into sports, Tony Dungy is a great sponsor for the program. They're based out of Florida. And so I can say all good things about it. Like I said, it doesn't take much. All you need is a willing dad. I'll be there with them. Make sure they, bring it forth, present it. And if they have questions, they can always come to me and see it just take off for Jacksonville.
Well, I was going to suggest if we could get like Pinewood and Merle Taylor and Adkins, the pre-K, maybe get the PTOs, or if we can connect with, maybe have you come speak to the PTOs and get the mamas telling the daddies that they're going to show up somewhere.
Yes.
That's how it works at my house.
And I noticed in times past, if you put the message out there, because like I said, we have a lot of dads that their jobs are kind of really demanding. So if you let them know ahead of time, scheduling is very important. So you say, hey, All Pro Dad, kids will be your best cheerleader. So you tell them, hey, All Pro Dad's coming out. Dads are making a point to change the schedules around. They'll be there. If you have homes that don't have a dad, the mom is the dad. So she can come. It's more than welcome. We have grandparents that are usually the parental figure in the house. And so when the kids come, and usually I have like a little door prize, I go to the dollar store and get them something. It's not about the prize, it's about them just being recognized. And for some of those kids, when we have the proud moment and they say, why are you proud of your kid? That's the most they heard their father say to them ever. And when you see their faces, it's like, wow. And I had dads that have broke down and said, man, my dad never did that with me. And they didn't know how to express themselves to their kid. And I had a dad that had one time, because I tried to do it at Lighthouse also. Had a dad that we had the proud moment, and he didn't want to say nothing. He was shy, which you would think big guys wouldn't be shy, but he was shy, and so his kid was kind of sad, whatever. So the next meeting we had the following month, the dad said his kid went home and said, Dad, are you not proud of me? And he said that hit home with him more than anything. So then at every meeting, He said, I'm proud of my kid because he got all A's, or he know how to get his bed cleaned up or whatever. So it makes a big impact. Like I said, Title I funds, it covers parent involvement. It covers all of that you need as educators. It covers all of that. And $50 a year is nothing. I used to pay it myself out of my pocket, but like I said, I'm getting stretched kind of thin. So just trying to get it more.
It's $50 per chapter, not per person.
Or is it per chapter?
Chapter, okay.
Maybe Cheesa could get involved in this and put out through
Yeah.
our website.
We can definitely help promote it, but if we can get you connected at some of those schools, I think we can get it going, so.
I would love it. It would be an honor for me to be part of it. I love Jacksonville. I love what's going on with the school district. And I think only the best is yet to come. We can get bigger and better as we grow.
Appreciate you coming out and sharing. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right. Next item on our agenda is our legal update. I see Mr. Scott Richardson is here with us this evening. Got a microphone for you.
Need to borrow a lectern from one of the schools to put, or one of the classrooms to put right here. That'd be nicer. So
It's on.
it should be. I'm probably not holding it up high.
There you go.
I'm not really used to using a mic, so you have to forgive me a little bit. So yeah, a little legal update. We have a couple of things to talk about. I think Dr. Watt and I spoke about the mask. I'm never quite sure how to describe it. The law that prohibits mask mandates like we had last school year. And just to sort of describe for you a little bit about what's going on in the background, some of the actions that are being contemplated about that. And then we have a little bit to discuss on the desegregation case as well. The mask mandate law, as you know, there's Act 1002 prohibits in most public instances the imposition of a mask mandate. Last year, we had mandates, students that came to school, staff that came to school, and in all public facilities, you had to wear a mask to help prevent the spread of COVID. There are those who believe that the masks aren't effective at that, but my understanding of the Department of Health and others is, and the CDC guidance is that it is advised to help prevent the spread. The legislature this past session passed a law that said we can't have mask mandates anymore, and that is going into effect for this school year. I know that there's an attorney in Northwest Arkansas who represents a number of parents who are very concerned about not having masks. His name is Tom Mars. He has promised to file a lawsuit this week. I thought it was going to get filed today, but I checked the filings and didn't see anything. So maybe getting filed tomorrow to challenge the law that prohibits the mask mandates. I know the Little Rock School District is heavily contemplating filing a lawsuit to challenge the prohibition of mask mandates. And I know there's some other public entities that are considering joining that effort as well or filing their own actions on it. There were a number of considerations last year when we were looking at the mask mandate. And as you know, we had a number of meetings of staff over the course of the summer planning for opening school come August with COVID. We had the virtual, but then we also had the in-school. And for anyone who came in school, masks were required. There were a couple of rationales behind that. And I think one of the primary rationales was we have a number of medically vulnerable students and staff members that we need to be careful about. Particularly, I think of our CBI classrooms with our special ed students who have medical conditions that make them at much higher risk should they contract COVID. So the question sort of to the district was, what will we do to try and help protect them? We have staff also who have conditions that put them at greater risk should they contract COVID or put them at greater risk of contracting COVID. So the mask was one way to try and help protect those staff members. looking at it this year, in terms of a mask mandate, I think you generally think of it as a whole school system or a whole area mask mandate. This law, I think, goes a little far in that I'm not sure that we could mandate masks even in our CBI classroom under this law, where we have some of our most medically fragile students. You can have, we have medically fragile students who are not in those CBI classroom, community-based instruction. That's our special ed students, and the ones that just can't be educated with their peers in regular classrooms. But you can have very medically fragile students in regular classrooms too. It's just, they tend to be concentrated in the CBI. So that's one of the issues that I see with the mask, the prohibition on the mask mandate. Even in narrow areas, less than full school-wide, district-wide, could we institute it in a CBI classroom? Could we institute it in areas where we know there are medically fragile students? Could we institute it in a classroom where we knew we had a teacher who was particularly at risk of the disease? We can encourage it, but under this law, I don't know that we can require. I was talking to Dr. Owa earlier. In my mind, it's a little bit like if we had a student, I think of this because I had this student when I was in high school, who is in a wheelchair, and if we didn't have these wonderfully ADA accessible buildings and they had to get upstairs to get to a classroom, how many students would we want to be at the ready to help that student up the stairs? I think we would want all the students to be ready to do that. I think of this mask issue as similar. So the option has been, obviously, when you're looking at filing a lawsuit, you're looking for partners to go forward with you. It has been offered through me to this district to join in that effort to overturn that mask and mask mandate prohibition. It has been my thought that the district might be open to joining such a lawsuit, but not initiating such a lawsuit. And that, what would it mean if we did? Well, obviously another district, probably Little Rock School District, would take the lead. Expenses to the district would be essentially my time to monitor the litigation and protect the district's position in it. No additional cost beyond that. We wouldn't be paying other districts' lawyers to advance other districts' interests. So the issue is mainly a legal issue. There are a number of arguments that have been outlined against the law. I find the most persuasive equal protection. So the law guarantees that people in a similarly situated will be treated equally under the law. And to draw lines between people, you have to have generally what we call a rational basis for that difference. So under this law, the Department of Corrections can institute a mask mandate in the Department of Corrections school, but this district's not able, may not be able to mandate masks in the CBI classrooms. So then you ask, well, what's the difference between the students at the Department of Corrections school and the students in our CBI classroom? That it makes sense to not have masks in the CBI classroom, but it makes sense to have masks in the Department of Corrections classroom. I think that's going to be a difficult question for the state to answer on that law. So I'm kind of giving you some of my legal impressions. You're welcome to ask questions and interrupt me. There are other lines drawn by the law that way. So for example, juvenile detention facilities, some of them with your worst offenders are in state-run institutions. Some of them with your lower level offenders are in county-run facilities. So in the state facility, and schools often provided with those, they can have a mask mandate where they're housing children who have allegedly murdered somebody, you can't have a mask mandate in a facility where a child maybe was truant or maybe got caught with weed in a public park. So the state's going to have to justify why it makes sense to have mask mandates for the worst offenders among juveniles and not for the lower level offenders among juveniles. I think those are going to be very difficult arguments for the state to meet. And so I guess a little bit of the question is, how do we want to interface with this litigation? We've been asked if we want to join. I think we'd like to hear input from the board as to your thoughts on that, or not. I mean, it's up to you.
Anybody have any
That's sort of an
questions
overview of
or
my-
comments when we're talking about the lawsuit?
I've been thinking about this every time I watch the news every night. My youngest son is a registered nurse at Tampa General Hospital in Tampa, Florida. He was just assigned to work, and he's an infection preventionist. He's been doing it for about 12 years now. And he has just been assigned to monitor a new COVID ward at that hospital because they're filling up, they're having to start more. And some of the patients' ages that he hasn't identified any names, are young people, teenagers. At one time in the emergency room one night, they had 8 teenagers positive for COVID or Delta, whichever one you want to call it. They're all the same. And so my opinion is that we should join in this. I feel like that, I know we stopped the mask here a while back after summer school, but I think we have to protect all of our students and all of our staff. And that's the way I feel.
Okay. You're on.
I'm with Jim. I personally think that we need to do whatever we can to protect our students. I think about the babies who are under 12, who cannot get vaccinated, who I work at UMS. I have friends that work over children's, and it's just filled up. And just to see those babies struggling and suffering is very hard. So I personally will want us to do whatever we can to take care of our children and family here in Jacksonville.
So just to clarify, like how this would work, because right now we're just doing we recommend the mask, not a mandatory, but we cannot make it mandatory until.
This law prohibits us from requiring students or staff to wear masks.
And so we have to wait until we go.
There's two parallel tracks here. I think the legislature is fixing to meet in a special session to discuss amending the law or changing the law. If they don't change the law, this is a separate track that an attorney is suing the state. Correct me if I'm wrong here.
How long will this take though? Like are we talking like by the end of next week? Are we talking 2 months? Like,
So the progression, as I understand it, for the litigation, for the special session, I don't really know. Those could
They
be
said a date
kind of
yet, right?
dynamic. I don't know the date for it.
They haven't said that yet.
I think I know there's a lot of discussion going on in the background on that, but it's hard to say what that will be and what will come out of it. For the litigation, what will likely happen is the lawsuit gets filed, parties will join, the attorneys will ask for what's called a temporary restraining order. So court can issue a restraining order to change how things work and do that in fairly short order. The court can reduce timelines to respond. So what litigation that would normally take months can take a very short period of time. I can tell you, this is completely separate litigation, but I was involved in the medical marijuana issue when licenses were originally came about, and somebody was unhappy with how the licenses came out, so they filed litigation, and within a week, all the licenses had been revoked and all the marijuana commission rules have been revoked. And then we went to the Supreme Court, and I think it was 2 months, and we finally had a Supreme Court decision on it too and came back. So when it's important, the courts can act quickly. And because the lawsuit is focused on school in the beginning of school, I believe the courts will respond. However they eventually rule, I think they'll respond quickly because they'll want the schools and all the parents to have certainty. So I think this will move fairly quickly.
And Scott, if I can add this, board, just know that if you decide to move forward and we have a favorable outcome with being able to establish a mask mandate, you have the gamut, the spectrum of what that mask mandate looks like in Jacksonville. So you can say only when there's close quarters or in the classroom, less than 3 feet, less than 6 feet, they're not required at recess. So we have some flexibility with the implementation of the mask mandate. So it wouldn't be just a full, you have to wear the mask mandate at all times.
Yes, I think that's part of the thrust of the litigation is try and get some of the control back to local government to address local conditions. And so that would be what Dr. O'Wall described to be exactly right.
So,
Sorry, that was a little loud. Yeah, I'm gotta get used to microphone talking. For people on watching online, Colonel Burnsmith representing. So first a question, and then kind of just perspective of military personnel and what we're seeing. So this is probably an odd question coming from a military member, but what is the repercussions of defying the state legislator and the law? So if it is delayed, and we're generally concerned about the health and well-being of our children and the faculty, what risk do you induce by defying the law? Is that something that you have discussed or
we
considered?
We will not defy the law. I think this is, as far as the lawsuit, if joining the lawsuit was overturned, then we could do the mask mandate. We can't do the mask mandate until the law is changed or the lawsuit is a judge's order, correct?
It'd be very problematic to try and go against the law. You'd probably generate a lot of controversy within your schools, and you would probably draw some litigation of your own, people challenging the district's authority to implement a mask mandate when the state law says you can't, and that would,
Yeah, so it'd be ugly. I'm just asking the question because I think it's worth discussing. So I'll give you perspective from base. There's wide gambit of military personnel. There's people that are against the mask mandate. They're kind of a minority, but DoD policy has just come down where we have mandated across the Department of Defense, if you're in a substantial or high risk COVID area based on CDC data, you have some restrictions. And so because of that, Colonel Ochoa has pushed the installation to health protection condition Charlie, which means there's a serious health risk, which is in line with the governor's emergency declaration. And it's put some restrictions on us that, really just to be blunt, is the problem is off base, it's not on base, and that's kind of the reality of what we're dealing with. We have problems with the vaccination take rates and issues on base, but we're seeing a much larger rise off base, so there's a lot of concern there. I'll offer some anecdotal evidence. I owe you more concrete data, but a lot of people I talk to have serious concerns about no mask mandates for school children. And especially the elementary school where they're not vaccinated, to the point where several families have expressed to me that they'll homeschool. So they're electing to not go to schools in Jacksonville. And I can also tell you that I've had conversations with people that if they knew that it was like this coming here, they wouldn't want to come here. So that's not everyone, and it's anecdotal. But again, and that's not your all's fault, but I think it's important for, as you take this issue up, it's a grave concern for our military families.
Thank you, sir. I would be concerned, I know we're fixing to talk about some other legal actions that we may be taking upon the state as far as the facilities and partnership funds. I think that should be our priority. I mean, that directly affects just us. I think this lawsuit is going to move forward with or without us, and we can monitor the situation, the results, and if the lawsuit is successful, we can take action. If the legislature meets and is successful or changes the law, I think we can meet and address our mask policy. I don't think joining the lawsuit is probably the best use of our time and resources. That's just me personally, because I think it's going to happen with or without us, whether we join it or not.
Would it affect us regardless of whether we're part of the lawsuit or not? I mean, if they change the law, they're gonna change it statewide. They're not gonna change it just for Northwest Arkansas or just for Little Rock School District, correct?
Right, if the law is struck down, it'll have statewide effect. It'll affect all, not just all public school districts, all public agencies. Because I know I think there's some counties contemplating some litigation about it as well. So yes, if they're successful, we don't necessarily have to join. The way I've postured it is our scope of joining would be, we'll let Little Rock School District and others really plow the ground. I've not indicated that we would be joining a lot of drafting or putting a whole lot of manpower into it. We can do more or less, depending on what you want. We can let others go forward. However,
What I've been hearing is that the legislature has to have 2/3 from both the House and the Senate to amend this law to where school districts can be allowed to do mask mandates. Is that what you're hearing as far as the percentage?
I could look into that, but I don't believe that's accurate. I think it takes a majority to amend the law.
It's for the emergency clause. It'll be 2/3 for the
Right.
emergency clause, which we put it into effect immediately. If they pass the law, then it takes 90 days for the law to go into effect, which would in essence put us into October, November, somewhere before we could do anything on it if they didn't have the emergency clause.
So the legislature would have to do the emergency clause before, or it would be 90 days. If they amended it with more legislatures than not, it still would be 90 days. Is that what you're telling me?
That's what, yes, sir, that's what the 2/3 is. Now, whether, if they change and amend the law and they don't pass the emergency clause, would there be public outcry if we went ahead and put our mask mandate in place immediately? I think that would be a legal question that I couldn't answer, but.
Okay, I just wanted to
Yeah.
make sure I understood the repercussions on the legislative side, but I'm kind of agree with you. I don't think we need to take at this present time, we need to be involved in a partner to this lawsuit. I think Fayetteville and Little Rock, I think they're going to move ahead pretty hard and heavy with it. And we'll just have to see what happens with the legislature. Hopefully, people will decide that this is for the kids, and we've got to keep them safe and follow through with get this amended and/or a restraining order to take effect.
Okay.
So we don't have to do anything to do nothing, but in order to join it, we would need a motion. So is there any other discussion or thoughts or anything? We can always revisit it too. So.
Yeah, I think technically Dr. Owa can decide whether or not to join the lawsuit, but I think he wanted to hear from the board your desire or respect your wishes on how to proceed. So this has been helpful, I think.
It has, because I know I'm not the only one that will receive the phone calls. So you want to make sure you had your input as well.
Well, I mean, obviously this is a fluid situation. There's going to be a lot of developments here probably later this week. And I think as a board, we will monitor that. And if we need to reconvene for a special work session, if there's changes and developments, then I think we are ready and willing to do that and address the issue. So, so I think we'll just kind of stand by and be ready to be flexible.
And if I could add this, we are paying, we being the district and the school staff members are paying close attention to the updates on a daily basis. And so we're making sure that we have enough PPE, masks, hand sanitizers sanitizer, all of the required support resources to make sure that our staff members as well as our scholars are safe. We're also going to, and I was going to share this in my report, but we're also going to host a town hall, informational town hall this Thursday for our parents, staff members, scholars, so that they will be able to ask questions to a medical provider about the importance of mask wearing, as well as any information about the vaccine. So we believe that sharing the information, providing an opportunity for them to receive the information and their questions being answered is definitely important. We also will host a vaccine clinic here at Jacksonville High School August 10th for all of our scholars, staff members, as well as community members who would like to participate. So our goal is to be proactive and to keep everyone safe, even without the mask mandate.
Deal. All right.
All right, next up. When lawyers get to deliver good news, they really enjoy it. Sometimes we have to deliver bad news. It seems like a lot of times we have to deliver bad news. So last time I was here, I got to deliver the good news that we got unitary status in the desegregation case, which is wonderful for the district. The rest of that story is because of the nature of this litigation, the interveners who are our opposition are entitled to attorney's fees for opposing our effort at unitary status. Oh, apologies. So when Judge Marshall issued his order declaring us unitary, he gave the interveners until last Friday to file a motion on unitary fees, and he asked us to try and negotiate the fees. We extended that deadline a week so that we could meet. We did that negotiation. The initial request from the interveners was for $200,000 in attorney's fees, and that is for monitoring and the 2-week trial that we had in October. Normally in litigation, each pays their own. In civil rights litigation, if you win, you can ask for attorney's fees from the party that you sued. Because the interveners won technically back in 1989, they're winners, and so they get fees for continuing the litigation. So $201,000 was the ask. We negotiated with them, and they have agreed to $130,000 as attorney's fees. The way that would work is they would file a motion with the court, and if we agree to the $130,000, then it's a uncontested motion. Because of the nature of the case, the judge has to approve the attorney's fees award to the interveners. If we don't agree to that $130,000, then we would contest the award. They would file their motion. I would file a response, picking apart, here's why I think they're entitled to less. Primary argument would be, we were successful, they lost, so we should be entitled to a substantial discount. Either way, they would be entitled to attorney's fees. I would not have the argument they're entitled to take nothing. They'll get something. It's just a question of what. When we went for unitary status in 2018 in staffing and facilities, we got a partial win, and then they filed for attorney's fees, and their ask back then was, I think, $300,000. And we litigated that with the court, and he gave them, they initially adjusted their fees down based on some of our arguments, and then the judge awarded them roughly half of their fees. So at $201,000 versus $130,000, we're close to half. I would say in my experience for litigating a 2-week trial of this complexity, I was a little surprised that their initial fee ask wasn't higher. But I've tried to give you all the information I can, answer any questions before you ask them.
So if we say, how do you feel about the 130 negotiated down to, is that?
I think that's fair.
Okay.
There's some gray area in there, 130,000. I don't think anybody could really fault you for agreeing to that. That is definitely
This is
within.
the last thing we're gonna be, I mean, is this pretty much the last thing we're gonna deal with as far as payment to them and everything like that?
Pretty
Never say
much.
never.
Pretty much. So let me finish my statement a second ago, then answer that question. So $130,000 is within the range of what the judge could award. I could, if I felt like I could tell you there's no way the judge would do that, I would not recommend to you agreeing to $130,000. But this is within that range. Is this the end of attorney's fees for us? Pretty much. We have our facilities issue that's still out there. We have, I have finally prepared the action to file against the state on facilities. If we're successful on that, then we would be applying for fees against the state. We did that once before with the school choice litigation. We got some fees out of the state for that. The interveners will support us in the facilities motion. They'll probably apply for fees against the state at the end of that. The way our facilities issue is postured, that should be the end of the attorney's fees issue, but I couldn't promise you that there wouldn't be another application for fees for monitoring the facilities issue somewhere down the road.
Comments, thoughts? I'm good with let's move on. Let's focus our efforts on.
Make a motion to approve the recommendation of our attorney.
Motion and a second. Any more discussion? All in favor? That passes unanimously, sir.
Okay, I'll let them know. And then sometime this week, there'll be a motion filed. It's an agreed motion for the fees. And then we'll get a decision from the court. After the court issues its decision, then we'll have an obligation to pay whatever he says. So I think that's my legal update. I touched on the suing the state on the facilities.
Briefly.
Briefly.
So where is that? And you say you have a motion ready to file?
Yes, I have it ready. I shared it with Dr. Owa last week. He's reviewed it and is satisfied with it. So we're poised to move forward with that. I want to go back through it, make some final revisions, but into this week, into next week, we'll definitely have something on file. Be moving forward there.
And that gets filed with the federal court or?
Right, so what I'll probably do is file a motion with the Judge Marshall in the desegregation case on that issue to file a lawsuit against the state. Then if he approves that, then we'll sue the state or serve the state with a lawsuit. They'll have to answer and we'll see where it goes.
Judge Marshall would be the presiding judge on that.
Yes. We would add it in the current desegregation case. And that'd be our last issue. We started as a district with, academics, discipline, facilities, staffing.
Achievement.
Achievement, academics, and then monitoring. And I think when we actually first started, there were a few other issues that got settled pretty quickly. And now we're down to just facilities. So you have moved further and faster than any district in the state.
And the facilities is pretty much approved
Yes.
if everybody holds up their ends of the bargain.
Right. So the 2018 trial for y'all's benefit, we went for unitary status on facilities, and the judge approved our facilities plan and said, if you follow through with this facilities plan, you will be unitary at the end of that. He made some modifications to, mostly to make us go a little faster on building facilities. He said, if you do that, then you'll be unitary. So it should happen automatically if we're able to follow our facilities plan.
I seem to recall some statements about the state being hitched to this horse and buggy, or I can't remember what the exact words were, but
Yeah, something
pretty
like that, yeah.
clear.
It was definitely his expectation that the state would assist with all the facilities. And part of the reason for creation of this district, I think in the court's mind, was it solved the many facilities problems that were out here. The PCSD just couldn't generate the funds to solve. So
Okay, any other questions on any of that? As always, sir, thank you very much. Appreciate what you do for us.
my pleasure. Always an honor to represent the district.
All right, speaking of facilities, we've got our facilities update here. Who wants to go first? You're good. You got a mic.
Good evening. Matthew Swain, WER. We had a facilities work session 2 weeks ago. I've been on a vacation for a week, so I don't know what's happening. So I think that went well. I think we have a good direction on how to proceed with the information that came out of the work session. And from our standpoint on the middle school and the elementary school, those seem to be progressing fairly well. You know, oh, you can't hear me? Sorry.
Did they get turned off or?
Well, I think it's on. I can hear myself.
Yeah.
You know, as you know, the middle school is getting ready to open up. There's always hitches at the end, so we're working on those daily to try to solve those problems as they come up and get them addressed as quickly as possible. So you've probably heard about a few of those, and we're just doing what we can, working with Bob and Michelle to get those things addressed as soon as they come up. So that's where we are with that.
And I'll go ahead and give an update on from the work session. We did send that letter to the property owner. I have not heard any response on that letter yet, but visit with Scott. I think the next thing is go get Dr. O and myself and maybe Chris, go out there and knock on the door and see if we can't make contact.
I didn't know that you were about to suggest that.
That was the discussion. I don't know what else to do. So we got to get an answer from him.
I'm not going.
So we're working on trying to make contact there for the land.
I have a question. I was at the middle school the other day, and I have a concern where the concrete, I'm trying to think which door it is, the concrete outside is higher than the floor in one of the hallways. And it appears like there could be a problem of flooding in that particular door area. I could show you by going back out there. I don't know if Bob and Michelle knows about it or not, but no, I'd be saying no.
I'm gonna head over there real quick after this, so I'll take a look for that, to see whether it is.
Yeah.
Maybe we have a
It's
swale
all-
that goes around.
Yeah, it's the big concrete area, slab area on the east side of one of the hallways or,
Okay. Is this in the main,
yeah,
visitor loop in the middle?
yeah, in the middle there.
Because I do know that slopes from the elementary school down to the middle school.
No, this is from Linda Lane, from that direction
Okay,
towards the middle school
Toward the middle school.
doors
okay,
on that end.
okay.
It looks like the concrete is sloped real high there and the hallway, and there's not much of a,
Okay.
The swell is on the outside.
Okay, well, we'll take a look at that.
Okay.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate you.
All right, Brian Forrest, Baldwin and Shell. How are you guys doing tonight?
All right.
Good, good. Just want to run through the school board update real quick. Unfortunately, Kristen was not able to make it tonight. She is at home sick, so keep her in our thoughts. As far as the middle school, she did give me a couple of topics here, and I noticed that some of these are already on the school board update, so let's kind of run through it here. The certificate of substantial completion was received and dated July the 16th. And I believe that is kind of making the process get signed and all that. So we're good there. As far as the ongoing work in the building, the punch list is being completed. And the teachers have actually, I think it was last Thursday, kind of got the chance to move in and kind of get stuff organized in their rooms. So I think that's pretty exciting.
It is.
Let's see, as far as the site, we've got a lot of things going on. That site changes every day. As a matter of fact, hate to jump ahead, but the elementary school. We actually poured the playground slab today, so that makes that look a whole lot different. But as far as all of the exterior paving for the middle school to open has all been put down. They are working on getting all the parking lot striping done and getting that all finished out, ready to go. Landscapers were still there when I left, putting trees in and mixing dirt, which is what landscapers do. The sprinkler system is up and running. And so as the sod goes down, they're using that to actually water the sod in. And I don't know if y'all have driven by there, but that grass looks a whole lot better than the grass I've got at my house. It's very green. Let's see here. I think the only other thing that she had on here, she wanted me to mention, is that the phone line for the elevator has been installed, but is still needing to be looked at. It sounded like Windstream was going to come back tomorrow to look at that. I don't know, Kevin, if you're here.
Yes,
Okay.
yeah, we're sure we're back tomorrow. They're having problems down. So
Okay.
we'll be back.
Okay, great. Great. Once we've got that all worked out, I believe that is kind of the last thing. Once we get that landscape finished outside, the full CO should be issued. So, yeah, that's moving forward, looking great. As far as the elementary school, our anticipated substantial completion is still the 14th of October. And kind of look through here, the current work tasks in Area 1. The dumpster enclosure is pretty much complete. We're just needing to get our gates in. Pretty much all of the interior ceramic tile is just finishing up. We're about 95% complete in that. Area 2, which is where the kitchen and cafeteria is, we do have all of our sealed-in grid in place, and the polished concrete in the glass, the red glass area is being polished out right now, and also in the cafeteria. And again, all of our tiles 100% complete there. Area 3, which is half of the two-story building, all that polished concrete is done, and all of our millwork is in the building. We've got about half of it installed in place right now. And then in Area 4, millwork is being finished up, and we started our LVT in the classrooms today. So those are going to start looking finished a little bit better every day. As far as the gymnasium, which is the building between the middle school and the elementary school, all of the exterior doors are on, and we've got our last little bit of painting, first coat painting done. And they've actually started laying out the sound panels up in the ceiling, got our light fixtures up there. We're looking to finish our HVAC and get that up and running here. But that's still scheduled to happen by the end of the week. So anyway, we're making some pretty good progress out there. And, we just have a couple things that pop up with the COVID. Getting wood doors, that seems to be a little bit of a struggle, but got confirmation today. We're going to have those next week. So we're working our way through a lot of this stuff, but we are still looking good for our 14th of October date. So,
Thank you, sir. Any questions? Keep on keeping on.
All right.
Appreciate it. Thank you, sir.
Are we scheduling an open house at the middle school?
I wrote that down to see how we'll work on it. We're trying to, we talked about it briefly, but we were wondering with the increase of COVID numbers with the Delta variant, what that would look like. And so once we get everyone moved in, and we'll work with principal councilman and plan something, even if it's virtually.
Yeah. Should invite those three superintendents to be here.
We'll do, duly noted. I have to realize it's been 3. So.
You're not 4? You're my favorite.
Make sure that's in the minutes. So.
All right.
Still here.
While you're at it, why don't you move right on into your superintendent's report, sir?
Well, briefly, just Thank you. Just a reminder, district convocation is next Monday, August 9th. We're asking everyone to show up at 8 a.m. or start to show up at 8 a.m. at the Titan Arena. We will start right at 8:30. Our speaker is Mr. Walt Coleman, and he's his bio was interesting. Said he's been booed by many and cheered by many, but of course that's his profession, being a national referee. So we're looking forward to having him with us. The Ready for Learning, updated Ready for Learning plan was disseminated today on social media and across the district. Just wanted to reiterate that it's a living document. So as we gain new guidance from Arkansas Department of Health and Arkansas Department of Education, we will update that plan and continue to push it out. The survey for the backpack policy that was requested, that those results were shared with you for your decision on how you would like to move forward with that when you address the student handbook policy. Again, COVID-19 Town Hall this Thursday, August 5th. If you are interested in joining and being on the Zoom, just let me know and I'll send you the link. If not, you will be able to join via Facebook Live. I will also send you the webinar link too, so that you'll be able to view from there. COVID-19 clinic, August 10th, 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. in the maker space here at the high school. And then, of course, the facilities and the legal update that you've already heard.
Very good. Thank you, sir. Do we have the assistant superintendent's reports?
They have a quick report, a brief report.
Now we are one great team, so we come up together.
I like it. Expedient.
Yeah.
Last month, we chose to highlight a couple of our departments together. I did food services this month. I just thought I'd highlight our security department. Had the pleasure of going over to their training facility and meeting our new and current CSSO, and they are certified special security officers. I'm sorry, we should have spelled those out, but we're very pleased to have these officers in place. We're going to be interviewing a couple more next week, but we are ready to start with the group that we have, and we have got 5 new trained and 10 retrained. So looking forward to working with these guys. One of the key components for a scholar's success is feeling safe. But on top of that, the relationships that these officers are making with these students goes a long way. We saw the one at Bobby G. Lester last year that was highlighted. I mean, that just warms your heart. So these guys are not just there for the safety, but they're also building relationships with these kids too. So I commend our district for having those officers in place.
One of the items included in your board packet is on some data. And although we're no longer under DSEG, we are committed to the processes. And so Mr. Smith has compiled some trend data as related to discipline, because we're going to, like I said, adhere to the policies that led us to unitary status. So he's going to share that data with you at this time.
Well, first of all, I'd like to say that you have many things to be proud of when it comes to discipline. Obviously, we got out of desegregation, but most importantly, we are doing the right thing the right way for the right reasons. And really, when we look at discipline at Jacksonville North Pulaski School District, there's no other school district in the state of Arkansas that does what we do here. There is a high burden placed on our principals. And so you have to give a great deal of credit to our principals for this data. And the reason being is because this data is authentic. When we look at really 4 tenets of what we do, first of all, accuracy. Every single week, our principals get an error report to make sure that the data that you see, that the court saw, that we evaluate to make improvement is accurate every single Friday, and we make those corrections routinely. Next is consistency. Mr. Walker was never hesitant to provide us with input and feedback. And one of the things he mentioned, and is actually supported by research, is that when an African-American scholar and a non-Black scholar committed the same infraction, the African-American scholar was more inclined to get exclusionary discipline. And so we asked ourselves, what can we do to ensure that that's not the case at Jacksonville North Pulaski School District? And for 4 months, we worked on developing a system to monitor that. We're the only school in the state that has that system. And so we monitor that every single week, and then we monitor it in more depth about every 6 to 8 weeks. And that's something that the interveners were extremely pleased with, and the court was extremely pleased with as well. The next element is due process. And tomorrow we'll have training for our assistant principals and our new principals in due process, because that's an essential element of discipline. That, first of all, that all scholars know exactly what the expectations are, that they know what the alleged infraction is, and they have an opportunity to respond to that. And so we have a very systematic approach to that that really protects the interests of all of our scholars. And finally is integrity. And this is really the thing I'm most pleased with in this district, is we've always been able to pursue integrity. We've got a lawyer who's always encouraged us to do right, tell the truth. We've had leadership, and if you know Dr. Walker, Mr. Lester, Dr. Owa, we still have leadership that encourages us to pursue integrity. One of the accusations that was made, and we've been able to refute, is that this data isn't real. We've put systems in place to monitor that. Complaint that Mr. Walker made in the past is that scholars would be encouraged to go home without an official suspension, and we monitor that very closely. And that's not how we do business. We try to do the right thing the right way for the right reasons. That's a credit to your district leadership, your superintendent, assistant superintendents, and your principals who do an excellent job. And we've had the good fortune of having data coordinators now and previously who do a great job of providing that data to our principals so that they can make those decisions. When you look at the data there, also you need to take a pat on the back for yourself, because a lot of that is reflective of policy. When you look at year 2, you'll see an increase in ISS, an increase in in-school suspension. The reason there was an increase in in-school suspension is because we noticed in that first year that level 2 offenses and level 3 offenses both started with out-of-school suspension, and that didn't make sense. A level 2 offense should have a lower consequence. So we put ISS in place for that first. We put ISS in place for that first level 2 offense. Another thing you'll notice in year 3, a big spike in parent-guardian conference, and that's the result of the systems that we put in place to monitor the fidelity, monitor consistency. What we found is we weren't using parent-guardian conference for those first level 1s like the policy states. So we made that change and we made that improvement. And then really the 5th thing that's outside of discipline, but really ties in with it really well is behavioral support. Your principals, your counselors have done an excellent job of identifying scholars with behavioral needs and meeting those individual needs. And so if you see those people, you really need to give them a pat on the back, because they've all done an excellent job.
Thank you. So you mean all attorneys don't tell their clients to tell the truth and do right? Is it?
I can only speak for our attorney.
That was supposed to be a given.
Thanks a lot.
Did you have a question? Colonel Smith has a question.
Yeah, sorry. So this is not representing the base. This is a parent. So we got the products for registering our children, and I was very surprised to see corporal punishment consent form. So I don't know if this has ever come up, and I know I'm the new guy, but I was really surprised to see that. And so I don't know if that's something the board's aware of. I mean, it's not, covered here, but I was stunned, and my wife was as well.
It is an opt-in policy. You have to opt in. It's not an opt-out policy. It is an opt-in policy. So when we first started the district, that was something that was discussed at the time, and it was input into the policies. It's something that we wanted to offer as an alternative to expulsions and things of that nature. But it is an opt-in policy.
Yeah, from the parents?
Yes.
Just, yeah, okay. Just really surprised by that. I've been all over this country, and that's the first time I've had to fill out one of those forms.
Well, I think a lot's changed in the last 5 years too, so.
Yeah.
Where we were 5 years ago and where we're at today is a totally different place, but that's the policy we adopted when we became a district, yes.
Okay.
And it hasn't been used that much.
Yeah, so how many times has it been utilized?
Last year we had less than 10, I believe less than 5 as a matter of fact.
Okay, all right.
And some of those parents really support that too. I mean,
Sure.
That typically happens in a situation where a scholar is going to get suspended and the parent says, will you try corporal punishment? That's when that gets utilized. It's very, very infrequently.
Okay, thank you.
But of course, that's a decision for the board, the corporal punishment policy.
Thank you, sir. Good report. All right. Consent agenda.
Before we move on, if it's okay with the board, one of the things that we discussed was possibly moving the superintendent's report and the assistant superintendent's report to the consent agenda. So you'll still have your monthly report, but if there's something that you would like to pull out of that report for us to expound upon, we can do that. But to expedite the meeting, we wanted to see if you all would be agreeable of putting it in the consent agenda.
I'm always in favor of expediting the meeting.
Me too. Aye.
Sounds unanimous, sir.
Sounds good.
Love you all, but. All right. So with that, consent agenda, is there anything in the consent agenda that anybody saw needed to be pulled down for discussion? If not, I would entertain a motion to approve.
I make a motion.
All right.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That passes unanimously. Next, we've got the Entergy easement proposal.
Yes, the Entergy easement proposal, Entergy has filed a right-of-way instrument for property near Loop Road. Exactly, it's to the left of the schools. So Entergy will pay the district $600 for the rights to clear and use property as a utility easement. And so the district recommends approval of the easement proposal from Entergy as presented.
And
$600 a good price.
And that's behind the old Walmart and the football
Yes.
field, the Janet Crow Stadium.
Right.
Yeah, I don't think you can get anything for it, for anything else.
Yeah, it's west of the new schools. I said left, but west of the new schools where the buildings are.
So moved.
Second.
All right, any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, that passes unanimously. Child nutrition bids.
All right, this comes from our director, Clint Walker. The USDA and ADE require the board approval on bids for the federal funded child nutrition program. And of course, you know, we have a great child nutrition director who tries to make sure we get as much fiscal but healthy bids as much as possible so that we continue to operate in the black. And so the district recommends the approval of continuing the community eligibility provision for JNPSD, which gives all of our scholars the ability to eat for free, as well as we recommend to accept the Highland Dairy and Cisco bids and accept the bid 21-CN003 bread bid.
All right, we got a recommendation from Dr. Owa. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All right, any discussion or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
All right, that passes. Any opposed? That passes unanimously. All right, tuition reimbursement.
This is for your perusal for the for first reading. Just an update that in the past, the district, as part of our recruitment and retention policy for our staff members, we offered tuition reimbursement. And the PPC Personnel Policy Committee met, presented a proposal to Dr. Duffy, and then before I got here to me as well. And I wanted to move this forward for your perusal that we increase the $40,000 per year cap to $70,000. $40,000 will remain for this year with the possibility of transitioning it to Title I, but the additional $30,000 will come out of Title I moving forward. So we could operate with less funds coming out of operating, but supporting our teachers and staff members with those additional funds moving forward.
When you do this tuition reimbursement, do they owe us anything as far as,
Yes, they have a requirement at, Mr. Smith, do you have the, do you remember the requirements when we reimburse? Is it 2 or 3 year commitment to the district?
I believe it's a 1 year commitment.
1 year. 1 year. And that's, of course, could be amendable if we wanted to increase that to 2 or 3 years so that we could retain.
Yeah.
But we can, but right now, as Mr. Smith stated, 1 year commitment to the district.
so we need to look at
Sure.
at least a couple of years.
And that's 70,000 that's district-wide, that's not.
District-wide.
Okay. Cumulative.
So that's just first reading, so no action. But if you have any questions between now and.
Well, to Ron's point, at what point would that discussion need to happen and that policy be addressed and changed as well, right?
Well, right now, if you want us to look at that and bring that for you, for your approval for next month, then we can do that.
I'd say yes.
Okay.
At least 2 years, we've had tuition reimbursement.
Okay.
Prenup agreement. All right, ASBA policy updates. The second reading.
Yes. The second reading for those ASBA policies that were presented last month is up for second reading. You have the option to move forward with the second reading or to approve them at this meeting.
All right.
I gotta wait for Jim gives his comments.
Jim, do you have any questions about the SBA policy updates?
I did a review.
Thank you. I did a review of the ASBA policies that they're telling us to correct. So far, it looks okay.
Their attorneys have the same instructions to do right and always tell the truth. I think. Okay. Do we want to put this, go ahead and move forward on this then?
By the way, I don't have any paper clips here either.
I see that. I saw a lot of sticky notes.
It kind of scared me.
A lot of highlighters.
Yeah.
Dr. Owen.
Make a motion, we approve the superintendent's recommendation for approval of the ESP policy.
Second.
All right. Do I hear a second?
Yeah, second.
So we'll get a motion to approve the Arkansas School Board Association policy updates. Any discussion? Questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That passes unanimously. All right, student handbook revisions.
The handbook revisions were presented to you as a board in July-August board meeting for a 30-day review. And so now we present them to you for recommendation for approval of handbook revisions as presented.
So since the backpack survey went out, we didn't make a change before that, right?
No, we provided the survey data for you all to decide.
And our current policy states that it must be a clear or mesh backpack.
That's correct.
Okay. So obviously that survey went out and it seems to be that policy seems to be in the minority. Is there any discussion or thoughts about changing that policy, or what is the desire of the board?
I think we should change the policy. Absolutely.
Okay. Is everybody okay with that? Is there any objection?
I would make a motion to change the policy.
I would second that.
So we're just basically deleting that from the policy, is that right? Is that the easiest way to handle that?
Yeah.
You can.
So is that your motion to delete the clear mesh requirement?
Yeah. Basically, no restrictions.
Gucci bags, everything. Is there any other restrictions that on bags? Is that the only thing that's in the policy? And I'm looking at Ms. Biggs. I don't think so.
Just
clear mesh, but I can say that anything that we've encountered at the high school, facsimile of weapons, things of that nature, it was in a clear mesh backpack. If they want to conceal it, they'll conceal it, they'll wrap it in something.
Sure.
So that it's not visible. So the only way to find it would be to just take everything out of there.
If somebody's got ill intent, they're gonna have ill intent and figure out a way, so. Let's, not make moms and dads buy 10 clear backpacks that tear up every other week, so.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so we got a motion and a second. Is that here?
Yes.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Okay. All right, is there any other, issue on the, handbook? Are we ready to approve the handbook as amended?
So moved.
Second.
Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That passes unanimously. All right, legal transfer requests.
Can we do this one?
I'm for that. I have a quick question before we get in here. One of these parents had said that they had requested to transfer inter-district, and if that wasn't going to go through, then they're requesting a legal transfer out of the district. And that is on here, but I didn't have the answer to, did they get approved for the inter-district transfer or no?
They have a process version, because we're still waiting on the student numbers for school.
Okay.
And what they were saying was that we can put it on the list for the transportation.
So we're going to give somebody possibly a legal transfer out of the district before we give them an answer on whether they can go in the district. I have a concern that we need to be trying to keep as many kids as we want, and they want to stay with us. I get the process of that, but I would prefer that be expedited and at least reach out to those parents to see if we can't make our case to keep them in the district.
Can we pull that from?
I support, I think we have a timeline on the transfer. I think we need to take action on that too. But I would just, for future reference, I hope they stay, but,
We'll expedite the process and we'll communicate with the parents.
okay.
Clerk, motion to approve the superintendent's recommendation on legal transfer requests.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, those pass unanimously.
There, me, that's a little late to ask. Was there an amendment to the one we received originally and then the one that came in today? The two extra ones that came in today?
Those aren't in the minutes. Those were just additional information on why they were transferring. The transfers were on the agenda. So, okay. Resolution for additional pay plan.
Yes, in light of the district being proactive in ensuring that we have as many vaccinated individuals as possible, I'm proposing that you all approve this resolution where we will incentivize our staff members, both licensed and classified, to be vaccinated. And so if they're vaccinated, currently vaccinated, or whenever they become vaccinated, we're asking for approval to remit to them $300 for proof of their vaccination at the time of their vaccination. These funds will come from ESSER funds, and it is permissible. We have about 600 staff members, so the max of ESSER funds that we would expend would be about $180,000. The ESSER committee district team did review this, and they did approve this to come to you.
Okay.
So moved.
So moved. And a second, questions, discussion. Question I read in the comments was that it was just one shot. I would take it that it's for full vaccination?
Full vaccination.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Very good. All right. Although, any other questions or discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That passes unanimously. Next item, next item is personnel as amended. Any discussion or questions in personnel would have to be held in executive session. What is the will of the board? We can move forward. You have a recommendation for us, sir?
I do. I recommend that the board approves the employment personnel report as presented.
All right. Do I hear a motion?
I make a motion.
Second.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That passes unanimously. Stipend for ESSER coordination and district point of contact.
As noted, the district has received ESSER 1 funds, ESSER 2 funds, and ARP ESSER funds, which some call ESSER 3, in the amount of nearly approximately $19 million. With that, there comes additional coordination paperwork and record keeping. And so I'm proposing that we provide, instead of hiring an additional personnel member to oversee these funds, that we provide the Director of Federal Programs a stipend for the additional work, $5,000 for each semester for a total of $10,000. In addition to that, we are still required as a district to have a point of contact to do contact tracing when there's positive cases and the need for quarantine. This position is required to work at all times. It's really a 24-hour position. The point of contact will work after hours as well as on the weekend. And so we felt that it warranted, at the very least, an additional stipend as well, of $5,000 per semester for a total of $10,000. These funds are permissible with ESSER funds. And so that's the recommendation, that those two stipends are awarded and funded based on ESSER funds and documentation that pertains to COVID-19.
Okay. Mouthful.
So moved. I have a question. This is a one-time deal, right?
Right. Right. If it continues after this year, we would come back for you for the second year, but this is only for FY22 for this year.
Who knows when the pandemic will end?
I'm sorry.
All right. Motion and a second. And any other questions or discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That passes unanimously. I don't have anything else on my agenda.
I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
All right. Second. We are adjourned. Thank you all for being here. Appreciate it. And microphones work pretty good. We'll get some more and get one permit out there. Awesome. Thank you, sir. We're gonna get you a special headphone so you can hear it loud and clear.
You got a hearing problem? What? You got There's nothing we can do about this. Yeah.
It's in my house.
Okay.
But I'll bring you something.
And I'll send you that next time. Just so you know.